Hey everybody, my name is Sam Pedro. Today I'm going to be talking about the book What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, which is written by Haruki Murakami. In today's video, I want to briefly summarize this book, share a few takeaways and highlights, and also talk about why I absolutely love this book. And I really do. I just finished reading it for the second time, and after reading it, I was just blown away by how good of a book this is. So what I talk about when I talk about running is a memoir, again written by Haruki Murakami, and it was published in 2007. And Murakami is a very accomplished and successful Japanese author. He has a global fan base and has come up with some really great books. Some of his notable works are Kafka on the Shore and Norwegian Wood. Personally, I've only read two of his books, so What I Talk About When I Talk About Running, and I've also read one of his books called After Dark, and I got about halfway through Kafka on the Shore, but didn't end up finishing it. And Murakami has a very unique voice. When I read his writings, it's very unique. Not only is Murakami a successful writer, he's also a successful runner in many ways. He started running shortly after he became an author, and he was in his 30s. And he ran 6 miles every day. He ran, 26 marathons, at least at the time that he wrote this book. And so running really became a big part of who he was. And so that's what this memoir is about. But I do want to say, even if you're not a runner, if you've never ran or you have no plans of running, I think you can get a lot out of this book. I know I did. I mean, personally, I am a runner, and running means a lot to me. I do run every day, and that's what led me to this book. But I got a lot more out of this book about the non-running things than the actual running. And so it's not really your typical standard running book. It really is a memoir in a sense that Murakami is really reflecting on his life and what writing and running mean to him and how they intersect into his life. So the memoir itself, the main story is it's 2005 and Haruki Murakami is training for the New York City Marathon. And it's almost like a running journal where he's documenting his training plan. He lays out what he thinks he needs to do to be successful for this latest marathon. And so he talks about, how much he's running, other things that are going on in his life, and other aspects of his running, for example, like what he likes to listen to. So that is the backbone of the memoir. That's kind of the main story. But as he's telling that, he keeps going back into the past and reflecting on important moments in his life when it comes to writing and when it comes to running. So, for example, he starts talking about why he became an author and kind of that story, and then he talks about why he became a runner. Those two are related, and so quickly I'll just say he was in his 30s when he became an author, and up to that point in his life, he had owned a really successful jazz bar in Japan and was running it and managing it. And one day he had the thought that he wanted to write a novel, and so he did. He wrote the novel, it became very successful and was well received, and so he decided to sell his jazz bar and focus entirely on writing. And he said right away he started gaining weight, because when he was running the bar, there was a lot of manual labor that kept his weight down, but sitting at a desk writing all day, weight just started coming. And so he knew he had to come up with some exercise to counterbalance sitting all day, and so he chose running. And so he started writing and started running at the same time, and for the next 30 years until he wrote this book, those two things dominated his life. He also talks about memorable runs from his past. So for example, his first ever marathon, he was in Greece, and he actually ran the original marathon route in reverse. So he ran from Athens to Marathon, and so he just retells what that experience was like. At another point, he talks about some ultramarathons he had ran. There was one in Japan where he ran around this big lake, and it was something like 72 miles he ran in a single day. And he just talks about what that experience was like, the pains and the things he struggled with to run 72 miles. And so I really liked that part of the book. But ultimately, I think one realization Murakami comes to is that the things that have made him successful as a writer are the same things that made him successful as a runner. And so my favorite part of the book is when he's talking about what it takes to become a good writer and a good runner. And he talks a lot about having focus and having endurance. And he mentions, some people are just born with talent, like a Mozart, someone who just naturally is so talented at something. And that can't really be changed. But the things we can change are our focus and our endurance and a host of other attributes. But those things can be strengthened, similar to a muscle. And so he shares how he strengthened these parts of his life and how those ultimately led him to become a great writer and a very successful runner as well. Now I want to talk about why I personally love the book so much. And at the beginning of the book, Haruki Murakami, he said he had to write this memoir because if he didn't write it, he would never know what running actually meant to him. And I think that's such a profound idea and thought. The idea of him sitting at a desk and putting thoughts to paper and re-editing it and rereading it and really trying to go at a deep level about what an important aspect of his life, which is running, what that actually means to him. And this isn't like one of those, hey, this weekend I'm going to go write what running means to me. This book took him years to write. So I could only imagine the hours and hours and hours where he's really trying to think deeply about something that means a lot to him. So that thought really struck me, the idea that I personally could go, sit at a desk for hours and try to really learn more about who I am and about different aspects of my life. And as I read through the book, that thought just, was hanging in my mind, that he was thinking so deeply. And I could see when he was having insights and he would come to these conclusions about himself as he was reaching deeply to learn what running meant to him. So I really appreciated that. Also in the book, he talks a lot about the writing process, what it means to be a good writer and what it takes. And I absolutely loved it. I thought he shared a lot of good tips that, could apply to any creative endeavor. So I think I got a lot out of that as well. And on top of all of that, like I had mentioned, I am a big runner. I absolutely love running, and it's a thrill for me to read about someone who is successful and who has gotten a lot out of running. It's almost like a model for me to follow. So those are the reasons why I love it. I can't say enough good things about this book. It's so well written. It's a really short read. I think it took me maybe 4 hours to read it this last time I read it. And so it's phenomenal. And I recommend it to everybody. Even if you've never ran or you don't want to run, I think there's a lot in this book for you. So yeah, go check it out. And I guess that's my review for what I talk about when I talk about running, which was written by Haruki Murakami. If you've read one of Murakami's books and would like to recommend it, go ahead and comment the name of that book below. I do plan on reading a few more of his books. And if you like this video, give it a like and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.